My wife 35F had a mental breakdown while pregnant and aborted our baby. She regrets the decision and wants another child. How should I 34M navigate this? Throwaway account for obvious reasons, and I'm sorry about the long post, but I really need to vent. Me 34M and my wife 35F have been together for 8 years. 3 years ago we had a son who is a wild teenager but the love of our lives. About a year ago we made a mutual decision that it was time to try for a second child. She finally got pregnant in October last year, and we were both happy and excited. She took several pregnancy tests a day. We started looking at houses, talked about names for the baby, and planned our future together. My wife started acting weird a few weeks into the first trimester. She was a completely different person, staying in bed all day looking at her phone, hardly eating, and was apathetic, ignoring our son when he wanted attention, which was very out of character. She said that she was unsure about the pregnancy. I told her it was probably just hormones. She was very anxious while pregnant with our first day, so I didn't think too much about it. A few days later, things escalated. I came home and everything was suddenly wrong. She told me that I worked too much and that I should quit my job. She hated our apartment and the city we live in and wanted to move back to her hometown so she could be closer to her mother. Nothing was good enough. Also, she was determined to have an abortion. She became furious when I didn't agree to her demands, and we had a huge argument where we both broke down crying. I told her that we planned this pregnancy, that she didn't really want an abortion, and that the hormones were just messing with her head, but that just made things even worse. We had nasty arguments over the next few days where we both said things we now regret. We hardly spoke for a few days. I had a mental crisis but managed to collect my thoughts while making sure our son didn't get affected by the situation. I sat down with my wife and told her that I would never agree or approve, but I would support her if she was sure about her decision to have an abortion. I also managed to convince her to go to therapy and talk to our GP. They were sadly both pushovers, my wife's own words, and basically just told my wife to do what was best for herself. Long story short, my wife didn't get better over the next few weeks. She was constantly on her phone, texting her friends and mother, who all thought I was a manipulative monster for trying to stop the abortion. She said extremely hurtful things, like that she couldn't believe anything I said because I was just manipulating her, and that she planned on moving back to her mother with our son and saw no reason not to. Meanwhile, I was trying to shield our son and did all the housework while simultaneously trying to manage my job. I didn't recognize my wife and it felt like I was living with a different person. The day of the abortion came, and I drove her to the hospital and waited during the procedure. I could tell my wife was back to her old self as soon as I saw her after the operation. She was crying in recovery but didn't say much. She broke down when we got home and screamed my baby while crying hysterically and clenching her stomach. She cried all night, and the next day she said that I was right all along, that she now understood how sick she was, that I was the only person who saw it for what it really was, and that I was only trying to help. She felt as if another person controlled her body and mind, and it was like waking up from a nightmare. Almost 4 months have passed after the abortion, and my wife got fired from her job due to sick leave. She stays at home all day, lying in bed or on the couch listening to audiobooks. I do most of the housework and take care of our son while working full-time, which has been exhausting. My wife has been going to a psychiatrist who said that she was probably psychotic and her feelings now are the same as a woman who were forced to have an abortion. She has also been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. She says that she feels broken, and the only thing that can make her whole again is becoming pregnant and having another child. I have a hard time trusting my wife, and I'm very worried that the same thing can happen again. I feel like I can't blame her for the abortion because she was sick, but I'm so disappointed and sad about the situation. All of her friends have apologized to me, but my mother-in-law has said nothing, causing my wife to break contact with her. I feel like my wife is not mentally ready for another pregnancy, that I don't trust her like before, and that our support network from her family is virtually non-existent. My father also died a few weeks ago. He was sick for a very long time, and his death was not a surprise, but it has still affected me tremendously. I feel overwhelmed with my father's death, my wife being depressed and unemployed, while I'm trying to manage my job, taking care of the housework and keeping our son fed, clean, and happy. Today I told my wife that I was on the breaking point and didn't feel mentally ready to try for another child and wanted to wait. She freaked out and started crying, saying that she is extremely disappointed, that she lost all motivation in her life, and that she feels like she lost her one chance of having a second child. I feel so empty and sad. Everything was good a few months ago. My wife was happy. We were expanding our family and my father was alive. Any ideas on how I should navigate this? TLDR wife had a mental breakdown and aborted our planned pregnancy. She regrets the decision and wants another child, but I don't think neither of us are ready. First comment, firstly, stop. She is nowhere near ready for another child. That idea should be off the table. A child isn't going to magically fix her mental state, and yes, she could go through psychosis again. Can you deal with another round of that? What happens if her depression continues or worsens with the added stress and responsibility of a newborn? As it stands, you have too much on your plate practically and emotionally. If you break, what happens to the child you already have? I can't imagine this isn't affecting him. My advice is not to fall for the guilt tripping. It's tempting to think if she just had a baby, maybe everything would be like it was, but I can almost guarantee that won't be the case. I'm sure she believes it, but you only need to look at how she has behaved since to get your answer. My condolences about your father. You're grieving and trying to keep your family functioning. You don't need any more on your plate. Find a therapist of your own so you have the opportunity to unpack what's transpired. Second comment, ask God help. All the friends who have apologized, reach out and tell them how you need them to help. Play dates? Coffee outings? Resume reviewing? I think you and your wife need to approach the child thing logically. You are both open to more children when the time is right. She can actively contribute to the time being right, and you can support her. Finances need to make sense. What savings level do you need to reach? What income level? You can both work towards that. Your first son needs to be stable. She can re-engage with him and nurture him to help provide that stability so your family is able to add another member. You and she both need to be mentally prepped for the stress of a newborn. You both deserve the chance to heal from the trauma your family has gone through. Big medical events set families back, but your family can get back to being ready. This is a tragic, sad situation. It would be tragic and sad if she'd had a heart attack, or slipped and fallen, or lost the baby another way. Everyone is mourning. That analogy of grief never getting smaller, but your life growing bigger in proportion around it will pan out as her life continues to grow. Grief becomes debilitating when it stunts growth. Good luck. I'm really sorry for your loss. I hope things get easier sooner rather than later. Edit typo. Third comment. I have a friend whose sister struggled with pregnancy psychosis for both of her 2 pregnancies. The second one was so bad they ended up having to remove both children from her care into their grandmother's for a short while until she recovered. She had absolutely no grip on reality at all. She also fully recovered. The problem is women's health care is abysmal, especially around this kind of stuff. You can go see a GP for something you're seriously worried about, and they will echo the same words you did. It's just hormones. Or it's just your period. Or why don't you lose some weight? Go on the pill. Mental health around pregnancy is even more disregarded as there is the overarching tone of every other woman on the planet can do this. Why can't you? It's natural. Suck it up. I cringed a little bit when you mentioned that you told her hormones are messing with her head because the weight of those words, even though in this instance you were correct, was probably the exact moment she stopped viewing you as an ally. They are the trigger that says everything you've just said is being disregarded by me as you being over-emotional. Your wife was failed by so many people. Her medical care absolutely should have recognized that something was wrong. It's up to you what you want to do, but a baby isn't a band-aid and you guys need to get the foundations fixed first. Both of you.